Amara Minata's grandson, just got back from hanging out with friends. He watched his grandmother's hands, gnarled branches, heavy with the harvest of years. She carefully laid the table, her movements slow but purposeful, like the sunrise crawl of a crab scuttling across hot sand. Each dish held a piece of her story, each meal a chapter in the epic poem of their lives. Tonight, however, the silence between them hummed with unspoken tension. Amara knew his grandmother, Minata, was waiting for him to speak, to bridge the wide gap that had opened between them. He felt it in the gentle crease of her brow, in the way her fingers lingered on the table, in the knowing smile that played at the corners of her lips. The air around them vibrated with a silent question, and he knew that answering it would require more than words. It would demand a journey into the labyrinth of his soul. He started, then stopped. How could he explain the pull of the modern world, the lure of screens, and the endless scroll of social media? How could he convey the allure of online anonymity, the intoxicating freedom it offered him, the way it allowed him to shed his skin like a snake and become someone new with every click? How could he articulate the comfort he found in disconnecting from the messy reality of human interaction, the safety of losing himself in the digital ether? But then he saw something in his grandmother's eyes, something that made him pause. It wasn't condemnation or disappointment, but a deep, fathomless well of understanding. And in that understanding, he found the courage to continue. Minata smiled as a grandmother smiles when a child returns from a long journey with his pockets full of shells. Her voice lowered, yet carried with the gravity of old iron. In my time, we learned wisdom from the mouths of elders, not from glowing rectangles. A monkey that plays with fire will surely burn its behind. She laughed softly, a melodic burst that shook the air with laughter and a reminder. The image of the monkey, clever, mischievous, appeared in the mind's eye, a playful warning wrapped in humor. The monkey's cheeks, round with mischief, glowed with a spark of memory. The old woman's laughter filled the space between finger and screen, making the device feel almost like a playful companion rather than a rival. The old stories are not dead. They are alive, she continued with a warm, rhythmic cadence. They've learned to wear new clothes, glow cloth, microchip sandals, but the heart remains the same. The heart that longs for connection, for warmth, for kinship under the moonlight, for a gentle sharing of bread and a story. She spoke softly but with the weight of symbols, a chorus of ancestral voices. Technology is like a machete, she declared, with a wink and a grin that sparkled with mischief and wisdom. Useful when wielded with wisdom, dangerous when handled by a child. The image is both practical and poetic. The machete, a tool that can carve life or end it. The smartphone, a tool that can illuminate learning or scatter wisdom into 1,000 fragmented shards. The soft humor in her tone. No anger, only the warmth of an elder who believes in the potential of the young, creates a bridge between fear and curiosity. Amara's smile flickers, a brief, rare alignment of mind and heart. It is not a complete surrender to the old world, but a glimmer of recognition that progress, like rain, can be both blessing and burden. The cotton tree outside, a silent witness to their conversation, stood tall with ancient patience, its leaves rustling in the evening breeze, as if applauding this delicate dance between tradition and change. Its bark, a roadmap of ages past, seemed to nod, its leaves whispering an approving sigh that rustled through the evening air, a blessing from the ancestors. Wisdom is like water. It flows, adapts, but never loses its essence. The phrase lands in the listener's ear as if placed there by a careful craftsman, each word polished by time. Minata's narrative then shifts, not to condemn the digital age, but to celebrate a synergy. The old and the new dancing, each respecting the other's steps, each learning the rhythm of another's breath. Child, we are not enemies. We are neighbors sharing a single pot of stew, she said, her voice a warm, buttery depth. If you bring your technology to the kitchen with humility, you will taste a future that is richer than any single ingredient. She then looked toward the horizon, where sky and sea met in a serene line. A gull cried out, and for a moment the city's noise softened into a hush, as if even traffic could be persuaded to the soundscape of this grandmother's wisdom. Timoon rose full and generous. Die in the cotton tree's shadow in a silver lace pattern. The city's heartbeat slowed, joining the old tree's measured breathing. In that shared pause, Minata spoke again, softly. Technology can be a river that carries us, but it must be fed by the rain of our memory, steered by the canoe of our elders, and warmed by the fires of our communal dinners. She paused, letting the words sink into the soft clay of the listening souls. If we forget our roots, we become leaves blown by every wind, beautiful but lost. Amara's eyes met his grandmother's. Around them, the air gathered the scent of roasted corn and freshly cut grass, of rain-warmed earth and the distant laughter of friends. The cotton trees' shade deepened, sheltering their conversation as if the entire neighborhood pressed in to listen. Minata turned again to the world, softly, almost as a whisper to the sky, and spoke with a practical tenderness that would outlast the day's heat. Technology is like a machete. Use it to clear a path, but never to cut off the path home. The home is here. Family. Neighbors. The old story. The old songs that keep us from drifting away into forgetfulness. Her words were a soothing balm, the raw nerves of his internal conflict, a reminder of the anchors that tethered him to reality, to the people and places that gave meaning to his life. Her words echoed the sentiment he had scribbled in his journal months ago. Be rooted, yet allow yourself to be free. A comfortable silence settled between them, no longer strained or awkward, but rich with the unspoken understanding that sometimes bonds hearts more deeply than words ever could. The setting sun cast long shadows, stretching and warping the familiar contours of the yard, turning it into a landscape of shifting shapes and textures. Then, as if emerging from a dream, Amara spoke, his voice husky with emotion. Grandmother, how do we find this balance you speak of? How do we honor the old ways without losing ourselves in them? How do we step into the future without leaving the past behind? His grandmother turned to him, her face a roadmap of time and wisdom, her eyes twinkling with the light of 1,000 stories. We find this balance, my child, by embracing the dance, she said, her voice a gentle melody that resonated with the wisdom of ages, the dance between the old and the new, between tradition and change, between the whispers of our ancestors and the hum of progress. We must learn to hold these seemingly opposing forces in harmony, just as the seasons turn and return, giving way to one another without denying their own truth. She reached out, her hand gnarled, yet graceful, resting on the back of his. In this dance, there is no single step, no rigid pattern. There is only the freedom to express ourselves authentically, to weave the threads of our heritage with the colors of our present moment, to honor the old stories while writing new ones. Her words were a tapestry, woven with the threads of experience, each strand a testament to a life well lived, a connection to the past, a bridge to the future. As the sky deepened into twilight, painting the clouds with hues of purple and orange, Minata continued, it is in this dance that we discover the essence of our being, the rhythm that makes us who we are. It is in this dance that we find the strength to embrace change, the courage to honor our roots, and the wisdom to build a future that is both innovative and inclusive. Their conversation flowed like the gentle current of a river, carrying with it the weight of generations, the laughter of ancestors, the hopes of children yet to be born. The old woman's words resonated with the wisdom of those who have walked life's path before, offering guidance and solace to those who seek to navigate their own journeys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.